Now, one of the best things about Formula E is how competitive and unpredictable it is. The ongoing season is an excellent example of this. It was not that long ago that Pascal Wehrlein was leading the championship and many were praising him. However, all that's changed now, and Formula E has a new protagonist in the form of Jake Dennis. After picking up just his second win of the season at the last race in Rome, he'll now go to the final round in London holding a reasonably comfortable lead of 24 points with 58 points to play for. While nothing is set in stone, as Dennis himself found out how quickly things can change in the championship just 2 years ago, it's safe to say that he is the strong favourite to become the 8th different champion in Formula E history. And that brings us to the big question: has he been simply lucky, or does he deserve to be the champion? Now, with all the recent drama surrounding Nyck de Vries, the thought of fluke championship wins is still somewhat fresh on everyone's minds. Let's take a very objective look at this to figure out if this is yet another coincidental situation or if Dennis is indeed a worthy flag bearer for a sport that's still quite young. We'll start with a small history lesson. At 28 years old, Dennis is neither too young nor too old, but he is at that stage in life that he would be considered the prime years of a racing driver. This is only his 3rd season in Formula E though. He made his debut during the infamous 2020-21 season, and despite a slow start to his Formula E career that included no points in the first 4 races, he quickly turned things around and was 3rd in the championship, 4 points behind the leader going into the final race in Berlin. After the start line crash involving Eduardo Mortara and Mitch Evans, and with Nyck de Vries languishing in 12th, Dennis looked on course to win the championship in his rookie year, only to throw it all away with a pedestrian mistake on the race restart. He would follow that with a move in the wrong direction the next season. With 3 podiums and a win, he would finish 6th in the championship, close to 100 points behind champion Stoffel Vandoorne. That brings us to the ongoing championship that Dennis is leading. Currently, he has just 2 wins in 14 races. In comparison, Nick Cassidy, Mitch Evans and Wehrlein all have 3 wins each. This, coupled with the highly avoidable mistake from 2 years ago that cost him the title back then, might suggest that maybe Dennis isn't the best candidate to be the top dog in Formula E, but we need to dig a little deeper. Ask any racing team manager what are the qualities that separate the great drivers from the good ones, and usually they'll highlight 2 characteristics. The first is the ability to bounce back and learn from mistakes, and the second is consistency. And judging by these 2 metrics, Dennis is one of the best drivers on the current paddock. He has the innate ability to learn from his mistakes. As mentioned earlier, despite getting off to a poor start in his Formula E career, he quickly learned how to avoid DNFs. If we exclude the first 3 races of his career, he has only 4 DNFs to his name across 3 seasons. This is very good, especially for Formula E and its racing in close confines. This season, he's failed to finish only once, and that was at the race in Sao Paulo where he ran into the back of Wehrlein. Even though Cassidy, who is 2nd in the championship, and Jean-Eric Vergne, who is 5th in the championship, are yet to register a DNF, Dennis is ahead because of a simple reason: his ability to bounce back from setbacks. While the mistake in Brazil could have been avoided, it was what followed that's been noteworthy. After another forgettable race in the next race in Berlin, Dennis has regrouped wonderfully and finished on the podium in 6 of the 7 races since. And that brings us to the second half of the equation: consistency. The hallmark of any great racing driver is to get a good result even on his or her bad days, and Dennis has been doing just that. Even when others have been quicker, Dennis has done just enough to bring home solid points. While the others around him in the championship have waxed and waned, Dennis has ensured that he's always fighting at the sharp end of the field. He's finished in the top 4 in 10 out of the 14 races so far, which is incredible for a sport like Formula E, where the attrition rate can be quite high. So all this suggests that it's no fluke that Jake Dennis is leading the championship, and that he truly deserves it. However, there is one final piece of the puzzle that still needs to fall into place, which will firmly establish if he deserves to go all the way and actually become the champion, and that's his ability to not buckle under pressure. By all accounts, he should have become the champion 2 years ago in Berlin, after Mortara and Evans had taken themselves out of the running before the first corner. He lacked patience and went for an unnecessary move that cost him the ultimate prize. We saw flashes of that in Brazil this year when he took himself out while battling Wehrlein, his main title rival at the time. While he's rectified his errors since then, the pressure will be at its highest over the next 2 races in London, as this is now his championship to lose. Starting from qualifying, he needs to keep his cool, maintain his composure, avoid unnecessary battles, and just bring the car home in decent positions to become Britain's first Formula E champion. 24 points is a nice buffer to have, but how well he holds on to his lead in London will ultimately decide if he is truly deserving of the championship, or if he will join the list of questionable champions. He's already done all the necessary hard work. All he has to do now is provide that finishing touch, which is easier said than done.